used to wear the double mouth guard, and he couldn't get too many words out. It was top and bottom, and he was trying to yell out, and every time he was trying to get the opposition, he'd say that he really couldn't get fair reason.
Well, it's Queenslander time here on the Wide World of Sports as we get ready for our favourite time of the year here in Queensland, a State of Origin match down the road at Suncorp Stadium. Today's episode brought to you with thanks from Tab, and also special announcement during the show from Macca's. That's why you see the little cups and the Happy Meal boxes in front of us. Available from McDonald's right now, there's a new Queenslander meal you can purchase to collect these cups in front of us, all based on the great Queensland moments in State of Origin. We'll just go through there in numerical order there. The 1980, the inaugural series that Wal was involved in. 1991, the Kings' last game. 1995, Fatty and his Neville Nobodies won it 3-0. 2006, we move into Lockie's era, the start of 8 straight, and 2013 when that 8 straight was completed with Mal as coach. And the last one on the end, 2025, when DCE lifts the Origin Shield again. But boys, Darren Lockyer and Wally Lewis, 2 legends of State of Origin. Leading into this match, it's kind of been a bit of a quiet build-up. Is that a good or a bad thing? How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, look, I reckon it's definitely as we evolve, there's probably less shots fired over the bow. Back in the day, there was plenty of characters that were in either teams that would be willing to say something that fired up the opposition. So I think both coaches would be instructing their players not to say anything that's going to motivate the opposition. That's why it is what it is these days. But I'm sure there's plenty of Queenslanders out there that don't need any motivation anyway.
Yeah, there's no value in shooting your mouth off to fuel the opposition tanks to get them to start with a particular reason for tearing into the opposition. I think it's the best you can do is just be very thoughtful on the way that the approach comes. That last training session has got to be the biggest and the best all season long, and I think that the players, once they take part in that session for the rest of it, that night, the night before, and the preparation on game day is absolutely imperative that they concentrate, and things are all about putting into place what they've been planning to do throughout the course of the camp.
Do you remember any teammates back in your day, Wal, that were willing to say what they thought and didn't give, too much consideration to what it did to the opposition?
Yeah, there were a few guys. I used to like Greg Dowling. He used to tear into the opposition and promise them what was coming. GD also used to say that it was tough though when you had he used to wear the double mouth guard, and he couldn't get too many words out. It was top and bottom, and he was trying to yell out, and every time he was trying to get the opposition, he'd say that he really couldn't get fair reason. There were a number of the other guys though that I was fortunate to be playing with. We had Trevor Gilmeister, who was the quiet achiever in those days. He didn't say too much at all, and I think that was pretty much the way for us, Lockie.
Choppy close.
Yeah.
Choppy loved it. Yeah, he used to go absolutely nuts. I was asked once who was the bloke that used to be the most proud Queenslander of all, and I think virtually everyone in the team said Chris Close. He was playing against in the first one Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers, God rest his soul, and they were 2 of the best setters of all time in Rugby League, and Choppy used to tear strips off them and then come into the forward pack and try to demolish the opposing forward. So he was one of the first ones to really display just how proud it was to be a Queenslander.
Yeah, can't disagree with that.
Mick Cronin was the one who got the backhander from Choppy, wasn't he? He made the tackle, poor old Mick Cronin.
Yeah, and Mick Cronin was the nicest guy in rugby league. He never said anything. He never insulted an opposition player. He was just a wonderful player for New South Wales. Kicked goals every time, and Choppy just decided he was a New South Welshman. He had to cop it, and a couple of backhanders that Mick got, and you could just see that he was a little bit disappointed disappointed and upset. But Choppy just, I think at the end of the game, he said, well, mate, you've got to expect that. You're an effing New South Welshman, so wear that.
Choppy reckons he had a fly on his forehead.
Yeah, trying to get rid of it. But I think one of the fiery elements of this game, and the silence has been deafening from the Queensland pack every time we've asked them, they haven't want to talk to about it too much. Spencer Leniu coming on from off the bench, what he did to JT at Suncorp Stadium, having that ugly altercation with him a few weeks ago. JT's one of the assistant coaches. He's the Maroons' right-hand man there. Do you think that would be playing on their minds, Lockie?
Oh, look, I reckon that would have been addressed at some point in the camp. And look, I think both coaches would be looking for ways to, Origin motivates you naturally, but I think as a coach, if you can prod a few players and get them fired up, then you do it, right? So I got no doubt there would have been a conversation within the group that, hey boys, let's try and prove a point here and get stuck into them.
Yeah, and I think as a captain, Lockie, too, we come up with those suggestions to players that you might recognise that they're a little bit down, they're not quite in the right mood, or they might need a little bit of help. There were players like Gilly that never needed that. Mick McLean was somebody that I remember wasn't given too much credit by the media, by the opposition team, but when he played for Queensland, he was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. He was wonderful, Mick, and got to be able to display. And he was playing against a couple of his Roosters teammates, and you would honestly get the opinion that he despised them, hated them, and used to give them the best mouthful throughout the course of a game to ensure that he was ready for it. And he was playing for Queensland, not being a Roosters teamie.
Well, having a look through this Maroons side, it's a new look team based on the one we saw in the decider Game 3 last year at Suncorp Stadium, with all those changes, some forced, some through injury, vice versa. Having a look at the Queensland team, guys, who's the biggest in from Game 3 last year to Game 1 this year?
Well, I think last year we struggled with the depth of our middle forwards. Gilbert was out. Unfortunately, he's out again this year. No Tino last year.
Flegler was still injured.
Well, Flegler is, yeah. So I think for mine, probably Tino is the big inclusion. Just a bigger body in the middle, can play long minutes, and it's just probably plugging a hole that was hard to replace last year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lockie. He's a wonderful player, Tino, and he can be playing second row, front row. He'll still put in a wonderful effort, but his ability to be able to fit into that side in a number of positions is certainly very impressive. And for me, from the outsider looking in, he looks like almost the quiet achiever. Somebody that's sitting back, he's getting through his work, he's not shooting his mouth off. The players say, though, when you're standing next to him on the field, he puts in. He doesn't leave anything behind on the sideline, and becomes one of the players that appears to be quite proud to be a Maroon on that field.
And just watching training in the past week up at Sunshine Coast in their camp, having Munster back in the group, he almost has nearly an aura you guys used to have of the group seems more confident, having an X factor. Would that be fair?
Oh, look, he's one of the best players in the game, and he's excelled at this level. The bigger the game, the better he goes. So just having him there, he brings a bit of character too, a bit of fun, a bit of cheekiness. There used to be a little number 7 that was pretty cheeky but very competitive on the day. And I think Cam's in the same boat. He can influence a game, but he's just good to have around the group.
He looks fitter too, watching him train. He's definitely fitter. He spoke about having that hip surgery in the off-season, but he just looks a bit fitter.
Do you think the moustache is helping that?
Well, maybe. A bit more streamlined running through, but
You never felt like having a moustache, Lockie, to fit into that.
You were my idol growing up, but my dad had a moustache, but I never got that far. It got a bit bit too itchy.
Yeah, I often wish that I didn't have one. That was a poor excuse for a moustache.
Maybe we do a retro round later in the year. Lockie grows a moustache and Wal shaves off his moustache.
Yeah, Cam, he's a guy that I think has been very impressive for Queensland in his performances, and they certainly will be relying on him in this game. And the more he tends to take control in the game, the better the chance for Queenslander and for Queensland. And I think it's not just him impressing his teammates and inspiring them. He also makes the New South Welshman pretty nervous every time that he starts to carry the ball, and he's got that old saying where he dictates terms to the opposition, and if he can do so, you can just see the nerves start to play a part in the New South Wales defensive line.
Well, he can create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
That's what Munster's good at. And, big games, big moments. I think the fact that he's injury-free has allowed him to train, and that's why he's looking fit.
Yeah, and we also got the intriguing subplot of this Origin game with Craig Bellamy, the Melbourne Storm coach, being an advisor to the Blues. Lots of Melbourne Storm players in this Queensland team. Do you think that gives the Blues a bit of an edge in some regard, or...?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you talk to some coaches and they find it very hard to give away insights to their players. So I'd love to be I think we'd all love to be a fly on the wall inside the tactical meeting in New South Wales with the coaches about what's being said. But look, I think no matter, someone like a Cam Munster, you can do all the homework you want on him, but he's going to do something that you unexpected.
Yeah, and Lockie, I expect that if Cam Munster came up with a play where he was close to the line and he provided an opportunity for a support player for the Maroons and he crashed over, knowing Cam, he'd be waddling back and taking a look over at the Blues and just saying, Craig, I think you came out with a little bit of false information there. You're the reason that Queensland scored. When you see that Bellamy's supposedly giving away some of the information to New South Wales, that could go against them.
And it certainly would be. And defensively, what do you think Billy Slater's been working on at the moment? Maybe tightening up that right side defence, because Latrell coming on the left side, he's been so instrumental in the past for Origin.
Yeah, I think it's about trying to take away time and space of those edge players of New South Wales. So to do that, you've got to win the middle. So I think there'd be a real focus from Billy about what do they need to do to sort of slow the game down when New South Wales has the footy, but then speed it up when we've got it. That'll be I guess that'll be the vision, but then the process. Well, how do we do that?
Trying to stop their dominance. That's got to be the real target for the Queenslanders, because they're big, they're strong, they're powerful, and they play a good offload. So I'm sure that the Queenslanders will be attempting to stop that.
And following on from that, and also what you touched on earlier, Lockie, do you think it was a fair assessment? A lot of people said the Blues bullied Queensland last year, given it was an undersized pack for the Maroons?
Well, in particular, the edge forwards, Crichton and Martin, were very aggressive last year.
Especially in Game 2.
Game 2. They were whacking blokes in defence. Martin, his trademark is when the bomb goes up, he just storms down the field and whacks the fullback or the winger, whoever's going to get it. So, I think that's an opportunity for the Queenslanders that play in similar positions to try and match that aggression.
And who from Queensland needs to be really physical? Like, is there a player or two you look at? You mentioned Tino before. Like, does he take on that enforcer role, or does Lindsay Collins come off the bench, or even do you wind up Trent Liera on Origin too?
Well, I think it comes down to everyone. You remember Game 3 last year? That was brutal for 70 minutes. They were whacking each other in the 70th minute. It's the same. While the series is not on the line here, it's a pretty important game for us, and we need to have the same mentality that we'll be aggressive from the first minute right up until the 80th.
Yeah, you're dead right, Lockie, and we can't afford to provide opportunities for New South Wales and allow them to take control through their aggression. It's imperative that Queensland match the Blues in that department.
I was looking at a stat before too, so Queensland lost game 3 last year at Suncorp Stadium. This game, a rare anomaly, is at Suncorp Stadium as well. 27 years since the Maroons have lost 2 games in a row at Suncorp Stadium. It's been that long since it's happened. You know, they've got to defend that fortress. That's an added element to this game.
Yeah, look, I got no doubt that Billy would have reinforced what the jersey means to everyone that watching on TV from Queensland and everyone that's going to be there on the night. So I got no doubt that they'll be prepared to play their best game and play with the effort and intensity that's required at that level to get, you know, a really good performance. So, yeah, and obviously the crowd helps.
Yep. And speaking of big moments, let's move on to our Tab Big Call this week. Thanks to our supporting partner here, Tab. Boys, what have we got? My Tab Big Call is it goes right down to the wire, game 1, and Val Holmes kicks a conversion from the sideline to win. So Queensland score at the death, scores are tied, Val kicks a conversion from the sideline, Maroons win by 2.
You know, I can see, I think the big call is New South Wales being extremely aggressive right from the start and trying to smash Queensland to pieces. At the end of the game, the Queenslanders displaying that famous determination and grit and will to win and having enough in the tank where they can get over the top of New South Wales, who are a little bit tired at the end.
Similar to you, I think the game goes down to the wire. We're actually behind with 5 minutes to go. Munster scores.
Oh, Munster, yeah.
Throwing one of his famous dummies on the edge of the ruck.
Yeah. What's Gus say? He puts them to sleep and then does his thing.
Maybe Dylan Edwards tries an extravagant pass in his own end and it bounces up to the number 6 who scores under the post. Seen that a couple of times.
Yeah, well, this sounds like this is what people are dreaming about at the moment. Queenslanders at night time, waking up with all these ways to win the game.
History repeating themselves. Let's move on to the Maroons captain, Daly Cherry-Evans. So much noise about him around this season. You know, potentially his last Origin campaign, you never know. We saw what happened with Cameron Smith. So what do you think his legacy will be if he does call it quits after this year's series?
Remember, I think it's the persistence will pay off. Like, you know, at the start of his Origin career, people were questioning whether he belonged in that environment, right? And now he's become the captain. He's won, I think, three series as captain. So that's special. I don't know how many captains have done.
I think it's you two and Cameron Smith are the only ones who have won more Origin series.
Right. So that's a special achievement. And again, back to what I started, like he had to overcome some doubt earlier on, but he's been able to persist and get the rewards at the back end of his career. So well done to him.
Yeah, fantastic, and I think he's led well. Going to need to do so in this one from the style that Queensland play, but to have these two, as we've just been talking about, the 6 and the 7, almost dictating terms for the Maroons, that will be necessary, and I think that their experience is going to be worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, quite an intelligent guy too, DC. Could you potentially see him down the track 5 or 6 years after retirement, follow Billy Slater's formula and move into being an Origin coach?
I don't know if he's got the desire to coach, but look, he's got the experience and footy intellect. So he could do it if he wanted to do it, but I think coaching, not that I've ever done it, but I know that watching from the outside in, you've got to be 100% committed to the role, and it's pretty intense, depending on what, obviously Origin's a little bit different to an NRL, that's big commitment, NRL, but at this level there's a lot of pressure on you, so you've got to be able to stay calm under pressure and be able to articulate, what you want to get out of your players.
Yep. Who knows, after his stint at the Roosters, they might line him up with a cushy job after there too. So.
Ask Paul about coaching.
Yeah, I know. It's not that fun coaching, isn't it, Wal?
No, anything but.
Did you notice a difference, though, between coaching Gold Coast in the New South Wales Rugby League before it was known the NRL? You're coaching a club side compared to Origin because you coached Origin as well. What was the main differences there?
Well, particularly at Origin, I'm not being disrespectful to club, but the players that you've got available under you at representative level, those players are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
They really are, and to require that they do things in a different way is a pretty simple task for them. And I still say it was the biggest mistake that I made.
Yeah.
Certainly enjoyed the time doing it, but the opportunity that I also had coaching the Queensland team, we got beaten narrowly both times.
Yeah, okay.
Boy, did that hurt.
Yeah.
And it was something that I don't think that I ever got over the pain.
More painful losing as a coach, you feel, than a player because you didn't have as much influence?
Seven days a week, and I often wonder about the things that I might have done wrong. Was the pattern of play a little bit different? Were the targets on the opposition, were they the wrong ones to put under the microscope? And you go out and you question the things that you may have done wrong or definitely did do wrong. So it's the one thing that I can guarantee, it stays with you for the rest of your life. Every time you'll come up against a game, you'll have a look at it and say, and you pull out those two words that every footballer fears: if only.
Yeah.
If only I had done it this way. If only I had done it that way. And I don't think I've ever forgiven myself for it. But that's part of it. You grow up and realise that you had to try and grab some experience to be a coach. And I was also up against Phil Gould, and I can remember talking to some others, Roy Simmons in particular, who said that Gus had something about him that very few coaches were blessed with, and he went on to prove that with New South Wales teams on a number of occasions.
And Foot.
Did he say that you had a pumpkin on your head?
Yeah. He's been big on calling us pumpkin heads, Gus, so hopefully we turn the table. But fortunately, Fatty exacted some revenge for you a couple of years later in 1995.
Yep.
Not that Gus likes being reminded, 3-0.
Yeah,
he was out-coached by Fatty.
With a bunch of Nevilles, as Fat used to say, and he just got the boys to produce their best, and what a performance that was.
I reckon there'd be a lot of sleepless nights as a coach.
Yeah.
Just thinking about 1,000 things every day.
If only.
And the last one on DCE before we move along, Lockie, a lot of speculation about his future down at Manly being a big discussion point this year. Do you think in a way he'd almost be relieved going to Origin camp? It takes a bit of pressure off him?
Yeah, I mean, it's well, you know, the media...
Different type of pressure.
The media is still talking about it, but I think getting into a different environment away from Manly would be refreshing for him.
Yeah.
It's obviously a big challenge when you come into Origin because, you know, it's a lot of pressure on the game at hand. So, but being in that environment, I think it just, you know, takes him away and probably freshens him up a bit, and it's just probably something to focus on as opposed to, you know, every training session at Manly talking about his future.
Yep.
And there's been plenty of disappointing times at Manly. The if-onlys, if only they could have done it just a little bit differently. But I think he's had some wonderful time at Manly, and he'll be a hero for decades to come. He's certainly done his job there very well.
Did you guys see the photo in the paper with DCE and Ashley Klein? So it was taken in Sydney about a month ago, and they conveniently published it on Sunday in Sydney. Yeah.
And who happens to be the referee?
Ashley Klein, yeah. They had that in the bag ready to go, but DCE handled that well. He spoke in Maroons camp about it. He says he couldn't remember. I think he was talking about his kids misbehaving to Ashley Klein, who has kids as well.
With AI these days, I mean, someone will have Ashley Klein walking down the Queen Street Mall with a Maroons jersey on.
Yeah. Time to wrap up the show in the lead up to Origin 1. So give us your tip, margin and player of the match. So I've already said 2 points, Queensland win by at the end, obviously a Maroons victory. Player of the match, I'm going to say Harry Grant. Rare chance to start for Queensland with Ben Hunt not in the system anymore. I think I might have stolen yours, Wal. Judge the way you react.
Yeah, well, I think my tab call last week was Harry Grant, man of the match. So I'm sticking with Harry.
Yeah,
so
okay,
Harry. No pressure, Harry. Man of the match. I'm saying that the crowd will go more berserk than ever.
Yeah.
We win by 10.
Nice.
And the margin, Yeah, so
10 points,
player of
yeah.
the match. Was there anything else we needed? No.
Yeah, so we've gone the double on Harry Grant. I can change mine to make it different.
I'll shift it. I'll go Cam Munster.
Yeah.
As the player of the match. I think he's got a bit of pressure on him. We've been talking about him, for ages now, and but I think that he'll get to lead from the front. Queensland will win by 2 points. It certainly won't be easy, particularly with New South Wales desperate to try and take control of the series. And
Yeah.
that was it.
So
Yeah.
the 2 point margin you two are predicting is the Val Holmes kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
From the sideline
From the
conversion.
sideline.
Imagine how nuts the crowd would go if that occurred at Suncorp Stadium.
What sideline though? The left or the right? Is he going to hook it from the left side quite comfortably, or is it going to be a real skinny entrance to the goal post?
Probably the left side, so he can do that little bit of a draw.
So to get the perfect outcome, Munster makes a break, scores in the corner, levels the score.
We tick all the boxes. How good would that be for Queenslanders? So.
No pressure on you, Cam. Hurry up.
You catch it all live and free here on Channel 9 on Wednesday and Thursday night too, the final match of Women's State of Origin. Hopefully Queensland can win that one, get it 2-1. But Wednesday night, you only need it tuned onto Nine's Wide World of Sports. Queensland kicking off the series against the Blues here in Brisbane.